that's the messaging, that whatever you have to gamble, you should be okay with losing. The likelihood of you doubling your money is less than 10%. The likelihood of you losing it is upwards of 90. Welcome to Girls Gone Gritty. Here we are. It's Thursday, and we are knee deep in travel plans. I am so discombobulated right now because I've got a child who's going to Japan, and even getting prepared for this episode today was a lot of work because my brain is across the planet because my number 3 son is going to be abroad.
Osaka.
She's had our child in Australia for a really long time, so she's been in it. But now I am feeling what it's going to be like.
And I really want to jump on the bandwagon and go see him in Japan because that's what we do. So if I can show up and support him, I'm going to.
I feel like where there's a will, there's a way, and somehow we always figure it out. There's lots of travels to be had. I am planning on going in March. So tune in for that. We'll do a fun episode about this world away because everything I read is interesting and different. And the way that they do things is going to be so educating and exciting. And if you have comments about Japan, please let us know because I love any insights that we can garner from our listening base. And your viewpoint is important to us.
And maybe Mac and Kyle can book up because she's going to Micronesia and Vietnam and Thailand. So that would be a very good excuse for us to do what we do. I just got back from London, as I mentioned last week. And my favorite part of the trip was we went to the countryside and we went to a manor called Estelle Manor. And it was like going back in time. We pulled up to this regal castle that was used as a hunting facility. And we felt like we were guests of the court. It's a hotel and a private club. Everybody that was staying there was also a guest of the court. And we all felt the same happiness. You could tell everybody was very happy to be there. Everybody was open to conversing. And it felt like I was in somebody's living room talking to friends.
It was a regal location from the pictures you sent. And to go to a place like that, you're rubbing elbows. And I love the story that you had of the influencer. That was a fun one.
Well, that's for another episode.
The influencers are always an important part of the episode. We love the positive influencers, which brings us to our top 3.
Our number 1, Sarah Mullally, the first female archbishop confirmed in the Church of England since its inception.
I think this is amazing because the Church of England was formed out of an incredible story. The Boylan girls, they separated and they created the Church of England, which is Episcopalian here in the United States. Females had everything to do with this digression of the church being away, yet a female has not held this position in its 1400-year state. That's crazy.
About time. I think it's wonderful. She was anointed to this role because she's favored, if we're going back in time and using that type of language. She's pro loving everybody and getting along. That's what we're going to celebrate here.
Yeah, it's about inclusion, having your voice heard, and more females to the rescue for that.
Amazing. Love it. Number 2. A major study shows that ADHD symptoms drop by more than 1/2 just by removing ultra-processed food from somebody that has ADHD's diet. Shocker.
This study they performed on boys who, in general, have more ADHD symptoms. You concentrate on a couple of pure foods. The study showed that rice, turkey, and vegetables elimination diet, the symptoms of ADHD went down by more than 65%.
And having a child that has ADHD, it makes you less impulsive. It lets you focus better. If it gives you a stronger control of emotions and happens within weeks, I don't understand why we wouldn't all jump on the bandwagon. And one of the things in this study said, just drink water. It said room temperature water. It's not going to replace meds, but if it's the first step in the right direction and it has a positive impact, why wouldn't we all do that?
Again, we've come to this on many of our episodes where the food industry is in bed with the pharma industry, which is in bed with everything else. And that needs to stop. We need to think about our diet, about what goes into our foods. And that will be a huge way that we can get rid of ADHD.
And go back to clean eating. Number 3, Super Bowl snub. Bill Belichick, sorry, buddy. I guess 11 trips to the Super Bowl and 8 wins, 6 wins as a head coach and 2 as a defensive coordinator aren't enough.
He was a giant before he got to the Patriots. And whether you like him, hate him, love him, whatever you think about him, his record stands for what it is. It was the first year of eligibility in the Hall of Fame, and everybody was very upset that he was snubbed. Tom Brady is the most decorated quarterback, and he was under the Belichick dynasty.
Deflate Gate, he's got this little hotsy-totsy chick. All those things do not take away from what he's done. He built an empire, a very successful one, and I think the Bostonians are livid.
Yeah. Well, let's see how he does in retirement. He had to be retired for a full year. It is his first year. So I think we can look to 2027 to see that he'll be back on that opportunity for being a Super Bowl Hall of Famer.
It's going to happen. They can't keep that guy out.
Definitely not. He will not permit it. And that takes us to our topic today, which has to do with the box pool, gaming, the spreads, all of the gambling that surrounds every sporting event.
It's everywhere.
Especially the Super Bowl. I have 10 friends that asked me if I want to be in a box pool this weekend alone.
I was talking to Pat about it last night, and he said that the Super Bowl, everybody feels like they can be a part of and they can make a bet. So therefore, it's fun for everyone. And the box pool has been around for a long time, whether it's legal or not. I was asking, how do you take something off the top? Vows, we do something every year at our local pub, and it's a lot. You're managing a lot of money, and it's a big job. How do they pay themselves if it's technically legal to take something off the top? Well, they can give themselves a few boxes and they don't have to pay. That's one way. Another way is that everybody that wins is expected to tip out 10%. So even if you win one fraction of a part of it, you are supposed to tip out the person that's running it 10%. So that's the incentive to start a box. If you're a school, organization, a sports group, that technically is considered illegal. 50% goes to the winner and 50% goes to the club of choice. And if parents are doing it and it's done under a different umbrella than the school, organization, club, or whatever, it's a good way to make some quick money in a fun way.
But you definitely cannot affiliate your school with it because you can lose your 501c3 status if you do any box pool gaming. If you are taking a box that you're not paying for, it's not technically a fair game. You're trying to make sure these games are fair and they're being administered in a way that everybody has the same exact opportunity to win. So in organizations, companies, we'll say an individual can run the box pool, but they do not have the box pool coming from Goldman Sachs. Somebody at Goldman Sachs could run a box pool, but Goldman Sachs in particular can't run a pool for its own benefit. Not that they need it.
There's so many sneaky things going on. How are you going to keep track of all these little private ones? You're really not, unless you win $1 million and now you have to deposit in your bank account.
That's the other thing they say is if you're running box pools, keep it to $100 a box in the big boxes where there's tens of thousands, if not more, on the line for the winner. Those can get a bit more dicey. And you do technically have to report all your income to good old Uncle Sam because he wants his piece.
We can thank the 2018 landmark ruling by the Supreme Court, which allowed states to legalize sports betting, online gambling, and games of choice. Thank you very much. You've caused a lot of problems for people, including the younger generation. And it seems like these young boys, once again, are targeted. It begins in the gaming world, where you are gaming and now you are paying money to play these games and you can get prizes, but really you're paying for the prizes. And there's algorithms that are targeting young boys to open the loot boxes, see what's in the box, win a prize that you pay for. If you're not checking your credit card and you have a young gamer, this is where gambling starts. In fact, there's a lot of gambling ads that come through that format. Online, nonstop, watching games as a family. Every time you're watching a game, it shows you all the spreads and the odds, and there's all kinds of gaming advertisements. So this is subliminal ways for the youth of America to become consumed with betting and the win effect. And they're not realizing that they're paying to play.
If you're paying attention to the MGMs or any that are advertising online, they'll say if you put in $5, they'll give you $300 to gamble with. What ends up happening, you're winning in the initial phases, and then you get to a point where you think that the win is going to continue, and suddenly you're in the hole. And then because you were winning, you think you'll just double down, which means you'll take your bet two times it. And then you're 2 times in the hole. And we have family members that this has happened to. And it's a significant problem because of not just the gaming itself, is that the young men in particular, they're not fully adapted to risk reward until after 25 years old. So they don't understand the consequences of their behavior. And you can get into such a deep hole that it feels impossible to get out. If you're an 18-year-old with a regular paying job and you're in $10,000 of debt, that feels like you're never going to get out from underneath that. And that is the problem. This accessibility of online gaming has become, way too easy. In order to bet in yesteryear, you would have to find a bookie, somebody to take the bet. And before 2018, when this law came into pass, Bill Bradley, who was a senator at the time, he actually instituted a law in 1992 that was more about protecting the integrity of sports. And that's what the 2018 thing overturned, was this 1992 law that said professional and amateur gaming is not okay. And we're seeing it happening now.
And it's too hard to not be compelled to potentially throw something. People bet on how long the national anthem is.
Yes, to the second.
And I was like, well, can't the person that's singing it leak information? They could practice it and people could be there timing it, but they could stretch it out if they really wanted to make money. There's so many ways to cheat and to take advantage of the system.
And we're seeing that already. If you're watching the NBA, there's a scandal right now with the players and the coaches that have thrown games, that have fouled out, that have changed the course of where something was going. And when you have human beings involved, there's too much at stake a lot of times for them to be able to manipulate the outcome. That's also part of the problem. If there's no trust in the game being fair, back to the point of, somebody not paying for a box, or then it's skewed and you spent money on something that wasn't actually the odds that you thought it was.
I was laughing because these prop bets, the coin toss, you can bet on whether it's going to be heads or tails. Like I said, the length of the national anthem, touchdown scores, which players are going to be the first touchdown. That would be hard to predict. I don't think they can cheat on.
Well, all I have to do is then not catch a ball. What I'm saying is, if I know the bet is on my teammate, then I won't catch the ball, wait for you to catch the ball. That's the problem. When there's humans involved, many people have watched games in recent where they're like, really? That tackle didn't happen? It seems like that tackle should have happened at that level. They scored a touchdown. And in the 2 NFC and AFC championships, people were talking about the fact that they're not sure that.
Oh, El Pres was so bent because he had $1 million bet on the Bills and thought it was reffing and coaching. He made a huge stink because there were a lot of things that went wrong. So, yeah, you can start scratching your head on a lot of different things. You could bet on what color Gatorade is going to be dumped on the coach's head, or if it's water. And the more prevalent colors like yellows and oranges, you don't make much money. But if it's red, blue, or clear, you make even more. There's a market to be made across the board. But with the algorithms that are targeting young boys, there's 2 solutions that they've come up with. Number 1 would be age verification. You have to verify your age.
That's going to work.
I know. You can go to a porn channel and say, are you above 18 years old? Yes or no? And click the box and you're in. So I challenge that. And there's supposed to be clear advertising restrictions. DraftKings claims to use advanced tech to verify ages.
No.
And the Sports Betting Alliance said that they have 0 tolerance for underage betting. Money's money. Anybody that's willing to spend it, I can't imagine that they're going to put too many roadblocks in the way. The only positive to the online betting with younger kids is a bookie, they'll extend credit. Online, you have to have money in the bank before you can.
I say that's not true. Like I said, I have a family member who got into significant debt and had to sell a vehicle. There was no verification of him having a job or having funds. And even if you do have a credit card, that doesn't mean you have capital,
right?
Like it means you have credit. There's no difference. Again, we've come back to the devices being the common denominator of problem. It's too accessible. You can make an impulse decision that's not a well thought out decision, or peer pressure. My friend's like, you're not going to bet? that is not the way that we were raised.
It was hard to place a bet.
You couldn't get on the pool. You couldn't get on the pool.
You had to know a bookie, or you had to go to Vegas. They just have made it absolutely accessible, and anything and everything can be bet upon. And you can even ask AI to help you place bets and say, hey, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? Chat GPT. And they come up with a very well articulated argument for who and why and the spread. I talked to a friend over dinner, and he said a friend of his uses AI to place his bets weekly, and that he made a significant amount of money by asking AI about the teams that he's betting on. And what AI does is basically give you all the information that's available.
Right.
And they break it down and give you a suggestion and say, we're not in a position to pick the winner, but we're going to give you all of the information that you need to make a good decision. So I'm sure a lot of people are using AI prior to placing their bets.
The crazy and the staggering numbers are the numbers that are being raised. What I want to know, where does all this tax revenue go? Where does all this crazy $300 billion industry that is supposed to be paying taxes? Are we solving the problems that were meant to be solved? When they started the gaming industry, they were supposed to be giving money for healthcare and education. The school districts are always in deficit. They always need money.
Like, it would be very interesting to see that pie chart.
When I look at this industry that literally popped up out of nowhere, and that is very Wild West, where, again, we hope that they're checking credentials and making sure people are doing what they should be doing. But are people getting themselves into an enormity of debt and problems? Are we solving our societal issues? I equate it to, if you ever saw the Back to the Future movie, where it's like the dystopian way of the future.
Wow.
And it's all about gaming, sex, drugs, and alcohol.
It's actually called Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, that part.
And Vegas is the epitome of all of it. And it is the demise of mankind. When you look at Leaving Las Vegas, is that what it was called? And it was Nicolas Cage, and he just threw his whole life away because he couldn't win, and he just drank because he was so depressed. Now that this is so readily available and people can just do it with the push of a button, I would imagine that the gambling anonymous statistic has gone crazy up. When I was Googling this to do some research, every single page brought me prevention hotlines. And if you need help because you're a gambler, and we're here to help, it's a huge problem. And before, it was more about drugs and alcohol and maybe sex addiction here and there, but you never thought that gambling was a problem across the board, and now it's intensified. What do you think the number one sport is in the entire world that commands the most gamblers? I was surprised by this.
Interesting. I'm going to vote soccer.
There you go.
Yeah, because it's globally the biggest sport.
So soccer comes in at number one, and they say that the best sport to gamble on besides NFL and college football is basketball. And it's because, like March Madness, for example, you're betting on 64 teams. So your odds, everybody can be a winner in a lot of ways. I thought it was interesting. I think is it Bill Gates? Who I'm not a fan of. Somebody offered, if you have a perfect score.
Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett said, if you Final Four, a perfect.
It's not just the Final Four. It's the 64.
Yeah,
you have to pick all 64.
Yes. March Madness box. If you could do the whole thing, that you could win $1 billion. And
no one's done it.
No one's been able to do it. Although I do think those odds are getting better because of the NIL movement and the super teams that are being created. But here's the other part. And you talked about basketball. I think that the reason basketball is a better bet is because you don't have these huge swings of one touchdown creating a win. It's 2 points, it's 3 points, it's 1 point. It's more of a cumulative effect with the game, more so than any other sport. Whereas I feel some of these bigger stakes games, football in particular, I feel like it'd be interesting to see like the psychology of making sure that people around you aren't messing with your head right before the game, to make sure you've not been infiltrated.
There's always a Tanya Harding in the bunch.
Yeah,
there is. Yeah. I thought it was fascinating that tennis is not something that you should be betting on. The odds are not in your favor because the likelihood of an injury that can take a player out is a bigger statistic. They said the same thing about hockey. Hockey, you can get an injury. You can have a goalie that lights it up and all of a sudden the game momentum changes. So there's factors that can make the outcome in tennis and hockey turn on a dime.
Right.
Not that I'm betting on any of these sports. I'm too cheap.
Listen, I'm the gambler, not. If I go to gamble back in the day, let's say it was Atlantic City or the Box Bowl, those would be the two things. I would take my $20, literally. That's the messaging, that whatever you have to gamble, you should be okay with losing. The likelihood of you doubling your money is less than 10%. The likelihood of you losing it is upwards of 90. As long as you're okay with being in the game for the fun of the game. And I know that's a lot of the reason why people have the box pool. They want to have their 1 and their 7, and they're like, ooh, I've got the best numbers for my box pool for the Super Bowl. A 1 and a 7's likely that I'm going to cash out a bunch of times. When you get 2 and the 6, you're like, uh-oh, I'm screwed.
I liked going to horse races, reading the names and having an automatic attraction to a name, maybe a number and color, sure, and just winging it. To me, that's fun. I'm not an avid horse enthusiast. I like going to Haskell, being at a derby party and picking a number out of a hat. I'm a social bettor. I'm definitely not somebody that would ever have a problem, because I'd much rather buy a bag 1,000% with that money that I just lost or go on a trip.
Horse betting is so fun. When you're sitting next to someone who's an avid horse gambler and they know all the nuances and the way that the horse runs on the different track and the weather conditions and all of that becomes more of a science of the gaming,
and a little bit of a problem.
Well,
I mean, that would be a red flag for me if I was married to that. I love that, you love horses and you're psyched on it, but if you're down to that, it's almost like counting cards.
Yes.
When you're really good with
cheating.
Numbers and stats, and
that's cheating.
A little bit of a problem there. Well, I think we've tackled gaming. You understand it's a problem for the youth of America. Just make sure that you are asking your kids what they're watching. Listen to the conversations that they're having with their friends. They said 85% of younger males have tried it, are very aware of it because it's on trend right now. And you really have to look at your credit card and see what types of charges are coming through. And if they start to get a bit higher and they're accruing a bit more, it's starting in the gaming, and have that conversation with them early versus later, because later they could already be in the hole.
Boys have a more likelihood of being involved in gaming, but that doesn't mean that the girls aren't involved either.
Oh, no.
What's happening is it's become such a social norm, and everyone's gaming.
And what girl doesn't want to be one of the guys and be able to walk the walk and talk the talk and throw down a bet?
Right. So just keep an eye on the apps that are being downloaded. Have a conversation when these ads come up on television, which I also disagree
should be censored.
With. Exactly. I also disagree with.
Agreed.
The advertising piece of some of these things needs to be culled back to where it was when we were kids, where alcohol, drugs, gaming, all of these
the swearing,
the cursing, it becomes a little less okay, because we want to keep things in check and make sure that you're living a life that doesn't bankrupt you. Socially, morally, or financially.
Agreed. Well, on that note, we're going to turn the page and I'm going to bring you a lyric from a song that is actually not even really a song. I'm going to confuse us a little bit. It is the summary of the album. And the album is all about the art of loving. That's what it is called. So I'm going to read the lyric. It's the art of loving. It's the art of loving. It wasn't all for nothing. Yeah, you taught me something. Got to throw some paint. That's what Belle would say. Something lost and something gained in the art of loving. Are you familiar with this?
I am not.
So this is my new favorite artist. I can listen to her whole album from front to back, and I love every song. And her name is Olivia Dean. Songs about positivity. Nice to Each Other is the name of a song. So Easy to Fall in Love. Listen to this album. It's real life. She's got a phenomenal voice, and it's an album that you can put on and listen from front to back and walk away feeling good. So while I was clearing out my parents' house in Florida from them passing on and having to sort through a lot of things, which evokes a lot of emotion, of course, it was the perfect backdrop for me doing that. It made me feel good. It made me happy. I listened to the lyrics and I was doing something that was emotional, and it was the perfect soundtrack for that moment in my life.
It's beautiful. I love it.
So now Jen has a Got Grit Award winner that she's going to reveal.
Ross Stevens is our Got Grit Award winner this week. And we are so excited because Ross has done extremely well for himself. Kudos to you, Ross, on your amassed wealth. And what a legacy that you're giving the United States to honor our Olympians, both Paralympians and traditional Olympians, with your Stevens Financial Security Award, $100 million that you've pledged for this Olympics coming up through the 2032 Olympics, where any Olympian will get $100,000 when you reach 45 or 20 years after you've performed in the Olympics, and then $100,000 death benefits. You have $200,000 financial security for dedication to being an Olympic sport participant, whether you won or did not win. That's not what this is about. It's about the time that you served and gave your country, promoting your sport competition, promoting the energy that the Olympics is all about, doing your best, being the best.
They have to lay out so much money to train. And a lot of these athletes were not born of privilege. They just happen to be born with an incredible gift that they are sharing with the U.S.
Being an Olympic athlete requires an immense amount of time, effort, and dedication to the sport itself. And financial reward aside, you're doing it for the love of what you're doing. And if you are somebody who's already making money, if you're a professional athlete, you are not able to get this award. So that's how he's going to keep integrity on it. If you're able to take name, image, and likeness and get next level with it, good for you. But if you're somebody who's gritty and who is in the trenches day in and day out in your Olympic sport, you're going to reap the reward thanks to this gratuitous benefit.
It's fantastic. He's getting some negative fallout because people are like, oh, another billionaire trying to put his name in the spotlight. Well, I don't see anybody else doing it. So what's bad about it? Truly, even if he is trying to make a name for himself, he's philanthropic. He's taking $100 million and it's going to become a bigger number, eventually getting the interest in 20 years. But it's got 20 years to grow.
If you research Olympic athletes, a lot of them are destitute after the Olympics, and many of them are able to participate in one Olympic sport and or game. So they had their day, yet they dedicated their whole life to it, and then it's over. So
exactly. And if you're not a recognized name brand, what's happening to you after you won your gold, or you didn't win a gold? You just participated and you're too old now to do it again, or you don't want to continue on because you've dedicated so much of your life to it. I think it's a beautiful insurance policy for everybody that actually makes it.
And Ross is paying it forward, and this is going to take the U.S. Olympic sport to the next level. Amazing.
I hope one of my children makes it there. I really do. Not for the $200,000, but because this is a conversation that we're having. So I'm putting it out to the universe. I'm manifesting it right now.
Well, she's on her way. So we're going to continue to watch on. And right
in a couple of weeks, New York Charging is our WLL team of choice. Chase will be playing for the WLL New York Charging, and she's got to keep a stick in her hand if she wants to make it into the conversation in the arena of Olympic athletes that are going to be proposed for the roster in 2028.
Amazing.
No.
Okay.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Girls Gone Gritty. We hope that you will join us next week.
And good luck on your bets this weekend. I hope you win big.
We are going to be placing some fun bets.
Let's go. Peace out.